Hey, paradise, put up a parking lot. Yeah, don't put that in there, right? Cough up a hairball here.
The weirdest thing just happened. I heard a voice in my house and there's no one else here.
The proper answer is, speak, Lord, your servant is listening.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant.
Good to be back, fellas.
Great to be back with you.
Yeah. Man, we miss Nehemiah today. The poor guy is still battling mold in his life. Consult 2 episodes ago about removing the mold in your life. We feel bad for him. He's working through a mess there in his house.
A bigger mess.
We wish you were here, man. So sorry. I know you're going to figure this out. I know you're going to get through it. But, man, what a rough road it's been for you.
But the show must go on.
The show must go on without you. You're here with us in spirit. Today we're just 3 guys. We miss you, Chris, who are crazy about our wives. We love our kids. Yeah, we want to kill it in business, too. But this week, we are taking a story from one of our faithful mastermind members, Jason Pearl. Now, if you want to know what an EFM guy looks like, get to know Jason. He checks all the boxes. He gets it. He's one of those guys. And we are happy to be doing this life with him. But he called in with a question, actually sharing a story, an experience that he had that I think would add a lot of value to all the EFM guys out there. Cue that sucker up.
Off you go, Jason.
Fellow EFMers, this is Jason Pearl. I have my own sales, marketing, growth consulting business. Decided to make a life change about 27, 28 months ago to start my own business and live a more independent, dedicated, entrepreneurial family man life. Over the course of the last 2+ years, I've had a significant amount of success within my consulting business. With that success has come situations where the clients I'm working with are looking to hire me full time. Although very flattering, not the path that I set out to take when I decided to start my own business. One of my best clients has put an offer on the table for me to work with them full time. It's actually a very lucrative offer, comes with great base and security, potential equity in the business, and things of that nature. Coming from the entrepreneurial life where you're only as good as your last paycheck, and then having somebody offer you significant financial gain with long-term security and potential equity in the business, I certainly had a decision to make. I spent a significant amount of time mulling it over. What I ended up deciding on is I needed to go through the process to make sure I was effectively leading my family down the path of making the right decision, not just myself, but the impact of what I was going to do for my family. Essentially, what I decided to do is, first of all, bring it to God, make sure that I do what I'm supposed to do as a Christian and bring these, decisions into my daily prayer life. Make sure that I'm leaving time and ability to ask him for what he thinks I should do and give him an opportunity to respond. I also spoke with my wife, being an EFMer, we're all crazy about our wives, needed to make sure that she felt she was part of the decision. I also sat down individually and wrote out my pros and cons to the decision that I had in front of me. In addition to this process, I've been lucky enough with this client specifically and the leader of this company. We had a significant amount of conversations around this, and I took the opportunity to be very direct with him and make sure that I was honest with him and explain to him that I chose this type of lifestyle and chose my business for a certain reason. So if and when my decision comes and it's not to join your organization full time, I want you to understand that my effort, my dedication, and the actions that I take on a daily basis are not going to change, and that you're going to continue to get the same effort and execution that I've been giving you previously. Work through all of these portions of the decision and ultimately came down to the fact that after I prayed about it, spoke with my wife, listed out the pros and cons, it was pretty clear to me that going to become an employee again for this organization was just not in the cards. I set out for a reason to be an entrepreneurial family man. I'm having success with my business, and certainly after 27 months, I'm not ready to walk away from it. And ultimately, the freedom and the ability that I have to spend time with my wife and my family, I believe aids my ability to have an exceptional business. ultimately made the decision that was not an easy one to continue with my consulting business, continue to do what I'm doing. But what has parlayed into that is the company that I've been consulting for. We're already in contract negotiations for 2020 to try to nail down some exclusivity with he and I working together. If you're going through this, you're not the only one out there. Keep living the EFM life, and certainly appreciate everything you guys do.
My gosh, it doesn't get any more EFM than that. We love you, Jason. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. And we just want to pick this apart a little bit and pull out some of these nuggets that we can all learn from and all grow from to become even more clear on this lifestyle that we want to live as EFM guys.
Yeah, let's pull out the Jason nuggets. We talked about nuggets last week.
Chicken nuggets last week, Jason nuggets. Pearls. Yeah, let's call it this: pearls of wisdom.
Oh, so let's pull out all the pearls.
How did we miss that?
Better late than never.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, Jason is like, you would say he's the poster child, except I'm not sure any of us wants to be called a poster child. But he's like the brand mascot. That is the epitome of an entrepreneurial man, because he is killing it in business. That was clear. I don't think he was bragging in anything that he shared there. He was just being honest about the kind of success that he's had because of working, as we know he does, real steady and hard over the long haul. He's good at what he does, and he's had a lot of success. And success tends to breed more success. Mm-hmm. It results in the phone ringing and people giving you opportunities, just like what this relationship brought to him. And that happens a lot for an entrepreneurial man when we're killing it in business. But what does he do with it? Instead of jumping on it and going, oh, yeah, what a great opportunity, he says, well, let me put that up against the things that drive my life, which is, for an entrepreneurial fam, it's my family and my God. Like I said, that's just brand message right there.
It's got to be enticing, though. You're carrying the weight as a business owner. You're making sure you make money every month. You're looking at your numbers, and somebody swoops in and says, hey, I'm going to make all that pain go away. I'll give you a consistent paycheck.
He told me what the offer was. A strong 6-figure offer. It's executive level salary here.
Man, that raises the stakes even more.
It does. And some equity in the company, right?
Yeah, which that's worth a lot.
Yeah. But isn't that the easiest thing to go to, right? The comparison financially. What am I making now in my own business versus what they're offering me? And I would guess that that's a substantial bump right away for Jason. So I think that brings us to our first point. We're not comparing apples to apples here. There's a lot of different factors in this scenario that we're looking at, and Jason really hit on some of those.
Last week, he spent the weekend at a lake house with his family and his wife, and that's where he went through this discernment process. Most employees do that maybe once a year, and then they take another trip and go to Disney World. Jason now gets to do this whenever he wants. That's an example too, Michael, of that not being an apples to apples trade. We've seen him take this massive action in the relationships in his life, and I mean, I would say that that's priceless.
Well, that's absolutely true. You never get it back. He's got this window here. I love when I see pictures that he's posting of him with his girls and his wife on Facebook, because you recognize the ages that they are. He's got about a decade. For the most part, that's going to be the time that they're under his roof, and he's got the greatest opportunity to pour into them, or, jump in the car with them and haul off to some place like that and just really have those long conversations. Life changes after that point. They leave the nest. That's our whole job, is to launch them well. And we still see them and we still love them and we interact. But the bulk of the time that we could have spent has already been spent, or it wasn't. It was just missed, but it's over. The window closes. And he's been just so focused on that. As an EFM guy, he knows there's a lot of ways to measure wealth, and money is often one of the lesser. It's not that it's not important, but it is definitely not the primary. And he's experiencing a wealth that, your word just a moment ago, Jamie, was priceless.
Yeah, it's worth more than pearls.
Ooh.
See what I did right there, Jason?
Okay. Goodness gracious. Well, it's funny. If you really dig into what's enticing about the money, I don't know, you talk to a lot of people who want to make more money. And if you ask them, what would that afford you? What would that make possible? oftentimes the answer is, oh, then I could have more freedom. I could spend more time with my kids. I could go on more trips with my wife, and all these things that we really value here at EFM. And sometimes that's possible right where you are in a small measure right away. And it's building into more and more opportunities for that.
I thought of that song that McCluskey's old enough to remember, like, who probably did the original version, but Amy Grant did the Paved Paradise, put in a parking lot.
You don't know what you got till it's gone.
Yeah,
Paved paradise, put up a parking lot.
Yes.
Right?
You know, when you make one of these shifts, it's really easy to see the grass isn't always greener on the other side. The value of time freedom and the margin and the white space, especially being an entrepreneur, having so much creativity that we have because we get to be the master of our own destiny. A little bit, you know, we're putting God first, but there's a certain level of autonomy that gives us a lot of creativity that's not really quantifiable. And so I thought, man, if Jason made the other choice and ended up becoming an employee to the CEO, I really felt like he'd be feeling that whole idea of like, wow, like I didn't realize what I have, and now that it's gone, being an EFMer is really. I love how Jason coins the phrase EFMer. He calls himself that. But I don't know about you guys, but I take that for granted sometimes. That white space and margin that we do have as EFMers. You know, Michael, before we recorded this, you were like, I'm going to go take a nap. You can't do that when you're a corporate executive all the time, right? Maybe you could.
Doesn't go over real well.
I was watching Shark Tank last night, and Robert, I forget his, I can't pronounce it. Yeah, there it is, something like that. He said on the show that I don't want any of my employees taking naps. You're in business. You should be working. As long as you're here, you need to be working. I'm like, that is the last place I want to be, because when I get tired, I want to take a nap so I can be refreshed and get back to work. And so there is that stigma of you can't do things like that if you have the job and you're an employee.
Man, when I was outfitting my office up here, I'm on the 3rd floor, and I was going out and getting some new furniture. The first criteria for the sofa I would get would be it's got to be sufficient for me to take a nice, comfortable nap on. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. You're speaking my language, McCluskey. So it's not just money. There's other things that money can't buy that you would be giving up by giving up this EFM lifestyle. So that's our first point. It's not apples to apples. There's more to this decision. Now, the second point here is, what are your values? How does this opportunity align with what you value in life? Chris, what spoke to you as you heard Jason talk about his values?
Well, we know him, like you said, but we heard him also articulate him here. And it was really clear that his highest value is doing all as unto the glory of God, because he said, I just went to prayer with the thing, and I'm seeking Lord's direction for the plans that he has for my life. And then he goes to his wife, the other half of himself. And we have just seen how consistently Jason does that, and how much it's transformed the love they already enjoyed. Those two are just one of those couples now that I know anybody else who knows them is like, I want a marriage like that one. Well, that's the result of knowing what you value most and then aligning your life in accordance with it. He lives according to those values. He sought his master. He sought the Lord that he's trying to serve through the stewarding of his work. And then he sought the one he's primarily serving, which is his wife. And from there, then he said he sat down and did a pros and cons analysis. That's just good business sense, right? So he's listening to his own self. But I thought it was a beautiful example of knowing what you value, what the best is, what your vision ultimately is that you're trying to move toward, and steering with that constantly in view.
Yeah, I got a big smile on my face, McCluskey, as you were talking about Jason and his values and just him living it out. Because when he joined our mastermind group, every time he would speak, I would listen up because he's brilliant in business. But we were talking about dating our wives and just spending time with our kids. And I know that at the beginning of when he started hanging out with us that he was doing that already. But it seemed all of a sudden like he turned on the same passion that he brings to his clients and his business of serving this extraordinary value as an entrepreneur to making these appointments with his wife to go on dates and, taking the top off the Jeep and taking his daughter. And so to me, that's been like one of my greatest joys of hanging out with Jason, that he's so fierce as an entrepreneur and so focused on his business. And he takes that same level of intensity and does it with his family. He's done all this stuff very strategically in the last 6 to 8 months. And why would any guy that's doing that want to give that up?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, Jamie, because when I was listening to that recording, I picked up a nugget that I didn't catch the first time. Sorry,
Jason nugget, right?
A pearl. And he said that living this EFM lifestyle and investing in his family and spending more time with his wife and working on that relationship makes him better as a businessman. It makes him a better consultant. Isn't that interesting? Because that's not a message you always hear, right? That the less you work and the more you focus on the relationships that really matter, your business improves. How could that be? But I think we've seen that in our own lives, and we've certainly seen that in Jason's life. So
yep.
I want to bust that one wide open too, because oftentimes guys will bury themselves in work and say, well, I got to make my business better. Well, maybe not. Maybe if you let up on that a little bit and focused on these most important relationships, you would see that improvement in your business because that side of your life is improving as well.
That's cool, Michael. He's a really good example of that.
Yeah, so that's our second point, values. And we also want to talk about his decision-making process. But he had a couple steps in there that I think are pretty important when you're considering a big decision like this.
That's our third point / pearl of wisdom, Jason nugget right there. If I could walk away with one thing from Jason's testimony, it would be how impressed I was of the value of having a discernment process. The fact that this is his top paying consulting client, and he honored that relationship. He used the opportunity to have powerful conversations with his wife and with God. For me, I need to be careful that I don't miss out on really powerful opportunities for growth by just brushing it off and saying, my values already determined this, so I'm not going to go through a process.
That was really cool to hear him talk about that, because part of that process was considering all the options. Like, let's not just make this call a yay or nay and move on. Let's dig in and have some very honest and open conversations, especially with this person who is giving him the offer. And through those conversations, an opportunity to continue to add value to his business and work with him and secure a contract with that same company. That was the result of him exploring these conversations in an honest way. Mm-hmm. So I just see him being open and exploring this and not being so tightened up and so black and white with the decision.
I love this, and I'm sitting here smiling as I listen to us, because it's kind of like we're all fanboying on Jason Pearl now, like, oh, he's so wonderful. It's kind of funny. But I know that our excitement is like we're just seeing somebody else and going, yeah, somebody else gets it. Exactly. There you go. So anytime you hear that, of course it excites us. So I think this has been a great conversation to not have us compare ourselves to Jason, but instead to just take inspiration from Jason and say, I want to be that same kind of man. I want to know what I'm about, and I want to live in alignment with it when I'm making the kinds of big decisions that come when success is breeding further opportunities for success. Be sure I know what real success looks like.
So what about you?
So what if this happened to you? What if you got a call from a very successful business owner or CEO, and he noticed your skill and your talent, and he said, why don't you come work for us full time? Sweeten the deal. We'll give you ownership in the company, give you a nice salary, benefits. Would you know what to do? What would be your process for working through that decision? Do you know what you're comparing? Do you know what your values are? Do you know the vision you're working toward? And will this opportunity get you there?
Thank you for listening to the Entrepreneurial Family Man Podcast. Visit efmlife.com to connect with us and others like you who are pursuing success in enterprise, family, and marriage.
Down. Okay.
It's great.